I've already started this project. As you can see, I got a platform in here. It measures 18 by 22 inches. It's just aluminum, little diamond plate. Got it at a metal supply store. That's going to be my platform for the batteries. And I'm doing this in stages. So the first stage is I'm going to mount these batteries. I had to drill out the old storage container for the batteries. I just drilled them out. They were held in by pop rivets. I got this platform and I had it cut at the metal place where I purchased it, and they had a shear cutter. They cut it for me. I used pop rivets to get the rivets in the exact same holes that the other container was in, so I'm not drilling new holes. And I actually I sealed it with silicone because driving down the road I didn't want to get any kind of water intrusion here. So I got some of these little mounts to secure the batteries. I have a clasp system that's going to hold the batteries down. I'll show you that after I get it done, but right now I've already drilled holes for these battery brackets. I'm going to pop rivet these in as well. I do have a 2025 Brinkley model 2900. We've had it for about 6 months now. We absolutely love this. It's got the new suspension in it. It does have a Furrion solar charger. I plan on changing it out for Victron, not because this is bad or I don't really know much about it, to be honest with you, but I just want to have a complete system. It does have the inverter prep wire here. I'm using these aluminum long, they're 3/16 diameter rivets. They're a 1/2 inch long because I need some length to get it to go all the way to the bottom of this right here. So I'm sticking them in there like this. I've already drilled these holes out. 3/16 drill, pretty simple to use. So I know this is the right. Make sure it looks solid underneath. There you go. You can see all my rivets all the way around there. Okay, you can see here, got them down there. They're very solid. Okay, you can see I got the batteries within these elbow brackets on both sides. Got it strapped down with a little clevis lock here with some little tie down things over here. I think it's pretty solid. Definitely side to side, it's solid. Front to back, I think it's going to be really good. I can tighten this down a little bit more. You can see here I have my 3 batteries. They're wired in parallel. Right now I wanted to show you my battery. Let's see if it shows up on here. This is my LiTime app with my batteries. Let's see here. It's kind of, the lighting's a little bit weird, but you can see I have 518 amp hours total battery. This app's pretty cool. This is my whole system. I can go to individual devices here. There's too much light. Let's see if this is showing up. I get like battery 3. I have the batteries labeled individually. So I hit battery 3, Bluetooth connected. My state of charge is 100%. And I already went through all these over here. So battery 2 is 100%. Battery 1 is 99% state of charge. With that, Bluetooth connected. You see I have 99%. So anyway, that's the LiTime app for these batteries, which is great. I'm probably going to put a battery monitoring system in here through Victron, just because it's not that expensive. I'm doing all this electrical and wiring. I might as well just make it all clean, just so I could do everything from one app, the Victron app, so I can monitor how my solar's doing, my battery charge, how much amps are going out. So today I finally got all my equipment, and I wanted to give a quick video of the equipment that I bought and show you where I'm starting at with my Brinkley 2900 Victron system install. So if you look behind me, this is my rig. Let me turn it. Just a quick rundown of my equipment that I finally got shipped to me. Everything is here except a couple fuses, but that's okay because I'm not ready for that anyway. I have the Victron Multi Plus 2. It's not even unboxed yet. It had been unboxed where I bought it from, Explorus, because they had to program it for my battery system. I paid, I think, $100 for them to do the programming for me, just to make the job simpler for me. Didn't want to have to deal with that. And then I have the new, it's a newer model, M10 Lynx Distributor. Little few minor differences from the, I think they call it the M8, was the older model. I have the on-off switch here, the Victron Shunt. It's the Smart Shunt 300. And this one, I got a mounting kit so that the distributor, the on-off switch, and the Smart Shunt will all mount flat against my wall. So there's spacers that I need to put underneath here and underneath here, and then it just makes for a really clean, tight install. And I think that's just a great way of doing it. You'll see I do have a lot of room for all this stuff, but I still want to make it as tight and minimize the connections as much as possible. Today, what's on the docket today for me to install is going to be this solar controller. This is the smart dongle. It's so I could do everything, see everything from my phone. This connects to the Multiplus. Just makes it really, the interface really clean way to be able to evaluate how your system is working. And of course, I've got all my crimping tools, cutting tools. And then, so here's my Brinkley sitting in storage. It is December here in Southern California. Beautiful day here at the storage yard, but we don't usually use our camper very much in the wintertime. So that's why I chose to do the project now, because we don't have our next trip scheduled till March. So this is going to be the I guess they call it the garage area of my trailer. So anyway, I haven't exactly designed how I'm going to lay all this out back here. I do have a lot of space, but then I do have these big bins that I store a bunch of things in, like a lot of people do in their trailers. They want to be able to store and take things with them, tools and just the supplies that you need. So I want to make this concise as possible. So I might just go right here in the middle, but I haven't decided yet. I'm going to figure that out today. But anyway, I wanted you guys to see where I'm starting from. Okay, I got the solar controller mounted where I think I want it. I got it really tight up in there into the corner because I'm getting rid of that old existing shut-off switch and replacing it. That will be attached to the Victron Shunt, or the distributor actually. You can see I got the solar wires connected. I just kind of ran this one behind it because there's like cooling fins and it just made sense to go behind it. Here was the other one going to the negative from the solar. Then we got the battery. I used the existing wire. It was just long enough to get in there. I did put ferrules on all the ends here just because I think it's a cleaner way, a more secure way to attach things. So I do have a ferrule tool that I use to crimp on there, and it was these wires here. I'm not sure of the size. I would guess they're probably 6 gauge, but that's a random guess. The wires aren't labeled. When I put the ferrule on there, it was very difficult to jam inside the positive and negative, but I was able to make it happen. I got the Lynx distributor in. It was relatively easy. I had to glue the little spacers that go behind the distributor and the shutoff switch. So I glued those on with super glue to hold them in place. Way I got the screws and I drilled out the back of the this garage, this room, this area, drilled out little pilot holes, and then I screwed in four screws holding this in, and then I got to do 4 more to hold this, and then 2 more for this one. Oh yeah, this one I'm gonna have to disconnect this to get this screw down here. So yeah, I just realized that right now. Okay, moving right along here. So in order to mount this Multiplus, it comes with a bracket, which is pretty nice. It's a great way to hang it. So what I did, I just measured side to side, and then I centered it right here. You can see my line, like right here, centered it. Obviously I can't level it because the rig and the storage yard is not level, so This trailer has these round circles here, which is really great for making sure everything's level. So that's nice. Can't use a level, so that's the next best thing. Drilled out holes, secured it with these 5 stainless bolts that comes with the Multi-Plus. And then there's 2 additional ones. I suppose they're probably going to go down here somewhere when I take the front cover off. Haven't even done that yet. But I will say this thing is heavy. Guessing maybe 45 pounds, 50 pounds maybe. And that's so, like my rig, I have to crouch down to come underneath here, and I have it lifted all the way. So I'm crouching down, bending over, lifting up. All I gotta say is you better have some strong biceps and a strong back, because you're basically leaning over this opening here, curling up, getting it flat against here, and dropping it down. So I would like to say it's easy, like most things, most times in YouTube videos, that's what people say, but I'm not going to say that. It's hard. And of course I've hit my head probably like 5 times. Seriously, like bleeding so much. My hat that I was wearing has blood all over it. Take it off. I think I probably hit this edge right here, so I got some probably DNA on that. But anyway, it's going well. So now I'm to the point where I need to start thinking about how I'm going to route my wiring. And I've noticed something here, that the way I wired my solar, and it looks like my solar power that I had before was constant. Even when the switch was off, at least there was power going from the batteries to my old solar controller. The way they killed the power was I had the disconnect from this. This is actually coming from the solar panel itself, going to the solar panel, and this is the on-off switch behind on the other side of this wall. So I need to figure out how I'm going to change this wiring. I'm going to wire this directly to the Lynx distributor. That's the whole idea of this. Probably using a 60 amp mega fuse in there. And then I'm also going to wire this directly into here as well, because I'm completely going to get rid of the switch right here. There's no need for that anymore. So, and then the other thing too, here's my inverter wires. This is the inverter prep. Okay, it comes with the Brinkley. And this, I got to make sure I can stretch it out to get it underneath here, and that it can go on the AC in, AC out over here. So that's what I'm working on now. I had to order a bunch of different wire lugs, different sizes. This looks like 1/4 inch. It's 1/4 inch. These are all going to be 5/16 inside there, I believe. I'll double check that. This one over here looks like a 3/8. So I gotta make a shopping list and get all my supplies. And then here, it's hard to see here with my light. It looks like a grounding terminal, because that wire goes to so I gotta change that out too. So that's interesting, if that's actually an actual ground or if that's just like a bus bar, not a bar, but a bus situation. So I gotta research that a little bit. I wired my inverter prep wires to the Multi-Plus. You can see in here. And so I recently done some research on this, and one thing that I found out on a Brinkley forum was that this inverter prep system is only designed for a maximum of 30 amps, because it's not going to be running all my DC loads inside the trailer. It's just a portion of them. So that's going to be fine with me for right now, because I don't do a lot of boondocking. We're going to do this for now, and then as my needs grow, if my need requires me to have more DC loads inside the RV, I could build on this system. My limitation here is my battery bank. I have about a 500 amp hour battery system, and that's not really a lot, you know, like to run 2 air conditioners, my fireplace, and the heater, you know, so I'm kind of limited by my battery bank anyway. So I do have a ground strap connection up here that I need to run all the way to the ground on the Lynx distributor. So I'm going to work on that today. I'm going to mount my T-fuse holder is going to go right there on the wall. So this right here is going to be my cable for my solar charge controller. This end is going to be obviously going to my Lynx distributor, and then this is the other end. This is a 6-gauge wire. This is what came out of the other solar charge controller, so I figured 6-gauge was good enough for that system. It's good enough for this. This is a ferrule, and this is I use a ferrule tool to attach this, and this is going to go inside the negative of the solar charge controller, and it's just a cleaner way of doing it. I don't think it's necessary. Some people might have things to say that aren't good about it, but in my opinion, getting all the strands of this wire together to be tight and to put it in here, have a solid connection to screw onto, I think is the best way of doing it. So I did it to all of these, and anytime I'm doing any kind of screw where I'm attaching wire, I'm going to use a ferrule. In this application, this is the only time I'm doing it. But I'm going to wipe everything down, all my connections. I'll be wiping down with alcohol, making sure I have a good contact. Sometimes there's a little residual oil on these fittings. You can see here on these lugs, I don't know if the video's showing it, but because of the angle of my wire, and I didn't like the way these were attaching to my inverter here, I ground the lugs a little bit. They're not secure yet, but I'm going to secure them, but I just didn't want them touching any part of the chassis of the inverter. So that's the reason why I did what I did there. Well, it's a beautiful day out here in beautiful Southern California, San Juan Capistrano. And I just wanted to give an update. I've finally got all my wires in place. Everything's connected. I've tested everything out. I've done all the downloads for each of the individual, the inverter and the solar charge controller had an update from the website when I first logged into it on my phone. But I got everything in place. Everything's working. I just wanted to give a kind of a rundown exactly what I did here, and don't plan on running the AC a lot when we're not connected to shore power, because 90% of the times we're connected to shore power. But I did this. This is a starting point. I may, if I find myself wanting to boondock more, I configure this installation to where I could add more batteries. And I mean, sky's the limit. I got plenty of storage room in here to do what I want to do, and I actually laid them sideways like this in parallel, so I could get longer batteries, and I could get, like, 300 amp batteries, have 900 here instead of 500, pretty easy. And I have extra wire and lugs if I needed to update that. So anyway, here's my power. So battery source going to a T-fuse here. Got a 400 amp fuse. Branched off here with some 4-aught wire that is going to my master switch. Okay. The part that was a little bit complicated for Brinkley, and I'm not sure if other fifth wheels are this way, but we have some other switches inside the storage here. Like this one right here, I don't know if you could read that sign, but it says 12-volt power switch. Basically, I could turn everything off except the refrigerator, solar, and jacks. And that's kind of a way that people store these things often. So that's what kind of complicated things a little bit. And they got another switch over there. It's a solar switch, which just isolates the solar panels so that I could turn them off. I suppose the only reason I wouldn't turn the solar off is if I was going to be working on the system. That would be a way to so I could work on it and not have to go up on the roof and disconnect the wire so I don't get shocked while I'm working on the system. But anyway, that's where that system where I branched off here going to this, it's not a bus bar, it's almost like a collection point to where I have power
hot sources even when the switch is turned off, obviously, because I got battery power going to this, which goes to solar. So this thing always has power going to it. You know, never can turn it off. When I do turn the solar switch off inside that compartment, like I showed you earlier, what that does, it doesn't kill power to this, the 12 volt power to this. It stops this from the power out. So even though it still has 12 volts, well, that blinking light where it says bulk will continue to show that blinking even when the switch is turned off, the master switch. But it is not allowing the solar panel energy to make it to the battery system, because there was like a bus bar in here. I think I showed that earlier in the video. Lynx, right, this is not screwed in, so I can take this off like this to show you what I have going on here. I'll get to this in a second. But anyway, this is where the only part of this whole job that got a little bit complicated. I'm not sure if this is unique for Brinkley or if other fifth wheels are done this way, but that's where the challenge was for me, was how do I make those other switches inside here still function properly, because I want everything to work right, and then also be able to turn the power off to all of this stuff downstream from this. So everything, the battery power comes into this shut-off switch, and then I have the Lynx distributor connected to that. Obviously, I have all my power sources connected to it. So here I have a source that's going into these switches behind the wall here. So that was my source here. I have a 150 amp mega fuse in there. I have my chassis ground strap here. It's a 4-aught wire. And then I have my power source and my negative source for my inverter using 4-aught wire, using a 400 amp mega fuse. And then I rigged up I had to splice this together to make my lights work, supposedly. However, my lights are not working. So I'm gonna have to, these wires on this side, they were very small, and splicing them, maybe they didn't splice properly. So I'm gonna have to probably configure another one of those to make these lights work so that I'll know if I have a blown fuse or not. So anyway, going back to the system, then I have a Lynx, a Victron shunt system here. I got a 300 amp shunt wired in here. I did have to get a longer bolt here. The bolt that came with the shunt was, I believe, 20 millimeters long. I didn't feel like when I thread this on with the washer and lock washer, I only had a couple threads attached to this device, and I don't like that. If I'm going to torque it down to with some pretty good torque, I want to have a longer, so I ordered 25 millimeters, so that's what's in here now. This one has the 20 millimeter that came with it, so that's fine. Everything, the battery cable is connected to here, and that's going to this battery cable. And like I showed earlier, this length of cable is the same length of this power source cable going to this. So they're supposed to help with the battery equalization, draining and charging the same. Let's see here. Not sure what this device is called, if this is a fuse or not exactly sure, but this is the way it was connected to the old Furion solar charge controller, so I just left it the same way. So anyway, that's a little bit unique. I have to put my camera down for a second because this is not even screwed in here either. I want to show you. Okay, you can see here where I have the negative and then the positive, and then I have a ground strap. And the ground strap, in most of the videos I saw, it showed that it was a large diameter cable, like I have negative ground going to the chassis ground of the vehicle. I have a 2 gauge wire here. It's a 5/16 lug on there. Most of the videos I saw, this ground strap was the same size as the negative here. However, it just did not fit through here with the lug that I was using. And then you can see on these lugs that I got, here's part of the problem I was telling you about. Some of the lugs, like I didn't feel comfortable with that positive lug, how close it was to that red part of the inverter. I don't want it touching because I think that'd be a problem. So I actually just ground down a little bit to give it some clearance. Those lugs were huge. Another problem with ordering lugs from Amazon, they're not always ideal for things like this. And then you can see here were the inverter inverter prep wires that I used. I have the inverter in coming in through here. And then this is the outside going over here. I'm just touching to see if they're warm because I do have the AC going right now. And then the dongle device over here to allow me to connect my phone and see all the data that this thing is putting out. It has a two-sided tape, secured it over here. And then you can see I have the power connection, the B plus and the B negative. That is, I tied it into the inverter right here. So, and then, okay, so for the chassis ground, this was interesting. So here's the chassis ground going to the inverter. This is the way it was wired before, the chassis ground. So, so I can get a light on over here. Here's a collection point. I noticed that there were other ground straps. And then if I move over here a little bit, you can see where they actually ground down on the chassis frame and secured it to the frame itself. So we have like a little bit of an extension, and there's like the collection point for the ground. It is a 4/0 wire. Yeah, so up in here, this is behind here. I should have this undone for you to see. I know you saw it probably earlier. That was the most complicated part, was trying to utilize the existing switches. And this is the refrigerator circuit breaker going to that. I've tested everything on the inside. Everything's working good. I do notice when I turned it on and I turned the AC on that there's a little bit of a hum coming from the inverter. I'm sure that's normal. But when I turn on the, I have a heat gun out here that I turn on, and it draws quite a bit of amperage. I'll turn it on right now. It's pretty windy out here today, but anyway, that produces heat. It's a heat gun. It's the tool that I use to use the shrink wrap. Now, I don't know if you can hear this. See the hum on this inverter about doubled in the volume, turning that on. I do have the inverter set to only put out 30 amps right now, even though this is a 50 amp rig. This inverter has way more potential than I'm using it for. Ideally, if I want to run everything inside the rig 100%, I would run 6/3 wire for the inverter in and output back to the main panel inside the rig. Okay, so the way I have it set up right now with these inverter prep wires, we only have a few items. There's more than a few, but it's kind of what I needed. So here, I'll turn this off and I'll show you what I mean. So going on in here, let me show what I got. So I have the AC going. It's nice and cold. It's a beautiful thing. That was one of the primary objectives that we wanted to use with the inverter, was the AC on an occasional basis when we pull over on the side of the road, or at nighttime we're trying to sleep in a harvest host or something like that. So that works well. And then I went around and checked all the plugs. So I have a plug right over here. We commonly use the air fryer for that, and that plug was hot. Every plug that I checked, I'm sure there's some I didn't. In the island right here, that plug was hot. We have a plug over here that was hot. I went in the bathroom. I use an electric shaver. We have an electric toothbrush. Let's see here. So that plug was hot, which is great. Went in the bedroom. Got a plug on this side of the bed. Plug over there. They're all hot. So everything is working great as far as that. And what I've been told is if I come over here to the panel, okay, so you can see in here I have a 30 amp inverter input option. So what I'm told is everything below here is going to work with that inverter prep wire that came from the factory. So that means, okay, obviously if I had a mini fridge, which I don't, the GFI 15 amp, that must be the plugs, everything that I just told you about, okay? And also the general purpose 15 amps, okay, and the main AC, okay? So a few things that do not work off the inverter the way I have it set up right now is we do have a fireplace down here, does not work. Obviously that's a heating element, so it's going to put out a lot of power. And then I have a microwave. You can see there's no lights showing the clock working. So those items are high amperage items that are not going to work the way I have it currently set up. I'm going to see my use in the next year, because we don't use this RV from let's say like November. Like our last trip is in October, and then our first trip is in March. So that's what November, December, January. So it's about 3 months, 3.5 months that we don't use this rig. It sits, and so that's why I did the project now, and that's why we have a 370 watt solar panel on the roof. Came from the factory that way, and I might put another solar panel on the roof, but that'll be a product for the following year. This is something without hookups we rarely do, so I'm just going to see my needs before I start getting involved. But the way I built this system with going to a multi-plus like this, 50 amp, was I can always build off of this. It could grow, and I could get a bigger battery pack. I could do more solar. Maybe I'll just do solar. Maybe I'll run that 6-3 wire from the shoreline to here. That's the way this is properly wired to get full function out of this inverter. And then I actually have a watchdog that's kind of in the belly of this rig that's kind of hidden. And then if I'm gonna run that 6-3 wire, I'm probably gonna mount the watchdog right here and run the 6-3 into that. Obviously, when I plug in the shoreline, it's gonna test the system, making sure it's gonna be working properly. And then from here, I would go out and go inverter in. So anyway, I hope this video helps other people who are thinking about doing this. I know when I started this project, I couldn't find another YouTube video that was helpful for me to figure out how to do this with the inverter prep and newer Brinkley. These Brinkleys are pretty new. I think they first started coming out in 2024. This is a 2025 model, and we love it. It's been outstanding for us. So anyway, I hope this is helpful to somebody else. I know I benefit a lot from YouTube. So if you find it helpful, let me know in the comments what you think. And also in the comments, if you see something that you think is wrong and that I can do better, let me know. I'm going to clean up all these wires, and I'll secure these wires. I didn't want to do that right away because I'm still kind of working and cleaning the system. But I will secure everything because I'm really into making everything look really clean. I know these things are rolling earthquakes down the road, and so the bumping down the road is going to cause these things to come possibly loosen the wires up, and that's not good, especially when you got high voltage, high amperage wires like this. I will definitely be retorquing these things down, every 12 months, kind of in my off season. Like I said, November, December, January, February, this thing sits. It sits in this storage yard along with most of these other RVs out here. There's quite a bit in the summertime. It's not uncommon for half of these to be gone. So we love our Brinkley, and hopefully you found this beneficial. So I wanted to conclude this video with a few just suggestions that I would give if there's someone else out there who is thinking about doing something similar to this. The biggest thing I probably would do different would be I would order wiring kits from a company called Explorist Life. They're from Colorado. A guy named Nate owns it. He does have a lot of YouTube videos. His videos were very helpful for me learning how to do this. This isn't my first rodeo of doing a Victron system. My son did a van conversion, and we ordered the kits and all the components through Explorist. And it was actually easier because we were starting from nothing. It was a brand new van, a cargo van. This one was more challenging because I'm tying into an existing system, and I was a little nervous about screwing up my almost $90,000 RV that's fairly new. So anyway, that's the biggest thing I would do. I would order the wiring kits from them to save you a lot of time, better quality. The amount of time I wasted by getting stuff from Amazon and then not being happy with it and sending it back and getting other stuff, and even the lugs I was getting from them, that the quality wasn't as good. And so that's the biggest thing. The other challenge for me was just tying into the system, especially trying to utilize those existing switches in the pass-through storage area, making that all work the way it did before, because I really liked the way that system worked, and I explained that in the video. So that was the challenge of this job, and I stated that in the video. So anyway, Nate from Explorist Life, they were very helpful. And if you reach out to them, they do respond back promptly. And so shout out to them for their help for this job. But if you decide to do this, it was actually a fun project, and I would recommend it to anybody who has a little bit of skill. Thanks for watching.